Hi, Dinah.
Hello, everyone.
You're our first attendee. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How about you?
Hectic day, but yeah, otherwise we're good.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Absolutely. And on top of that, load shedding.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that was probably a fun bit of news yesterday for everybody.
It
Yeah, no,
was. And it
definitely.
was unexpected, yeah.
Just as we started getting used to not having load shedding, right?
No,
Absolutely.
definitely.
It's just to remind us of the blessings we have if we do have alternative options from a lighting perspective or solar panels. It's just to remind us that we have to be thankful for that.
I mean, and besides that, also just like justifying that expense, like,
Yes.
so I got my solar and inverter in 2023. And so then in 24, load shedding, quote unquote, stopped. And then I started
Yeah.
feeling like, oh, come on, man,
Yeah.
just as I got my stuff, So, but now, random power outages or, the return of intermittent load shedding, at least I feel like, okay, cool, it's fine. I still have the benefits.
I felt exactly the same way. So we put solar panels on, we put a gas geyser in, we put a gas stove in, we put perimeter lights, solar panels up. And I also thought when load shedding stopped, I was like, okay, well, now we've gone through all of these expenses. We've got it, but it's not like I'm really using it. But I have to tell you, last night we were in Bryanston, lovely traffic. So we got home at about 7:30. And also, I wasn't aware that there was load shedding. I don't know, nobody notified me. So when I got home at 7:30, I thought to myself, you know what? I'm actually so blessed because I walked into a house that has got perimeter lighting. I walked into a house where I could switch on lights because I've got the solar panel. I could make food, I could make coffee, I could watch TV. So when there is load shedding, it doesn't affect me because we've gone through all of these precautionary measures.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, it's wonderful to have it. Like and in 2023 especially, right? When we still had times of stage 6 load shedding, man, it's wonderful to just like carry on watching TV,
Yeah.
at night when the power goes out and stuff like that. So yeah, that's no, look, I wouldn't trade it for anything, but um, you know, it's not an insignificant cost to implement. So, you know, your first reaction is like, oh crap, So, now all of this and for nothing.
Yep.
But at least, look, in my area here in Craigavon, um, a couple of blocks down the road from me, um, I see in the Telegram group that people constantly complain about power outages that last for hours or sometimes even days at a time.
Oh,
And so, so I see those messages and I think like, oh, I'm sorry for you guys, but I'm also happy that, something like that,
yep.
I'm relatively covered, We had one incident where we were without power for 36 hours.
Oh,
But I mean, I was blissfully, just doing fine.
yep. Yeah. Yeah. I think if we also look at I think it's very difficult for people with children. I mean, now you've got little ones that now have to. So yeah, it's I don't know why it's back, but it's not very pleasant.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
trying to get somebody in. Hi, Loratu, how are you?
Hello, guys. How are you?
Hi, Lorato. Do well, and you?
Good, good.
Apologies, guys. This is our first DAG session. And now I've got people contacting me and saying they're unable to join. So I'm just trying to sort this out. Jomari, in the meantime, so if you can just make sure that everybody comes in and is comfortable, and arrange coffee and stuff like that, and whatever needs to be needs to be done.
Oh, that would have been lovely, hey?
Well, that's after work hours, so yeah. I'm just gonna see, because I've got the other speaker that I'm trying to get into the session. So please excuse me for 2 seconds.
I felt like, Loretta, just to bring you up to speed, the conversation was about us having load shedding, and then Tinus and Dinah bragged about having solar, but we're sitting in the dark.
Yeah, I always also have to kind of
We
be
can't really
a little bit
say that,
sensitive.
we enjoy load shedding as much as you guys do, definitely. So, yeah. If I had to put my camera on now, you wouldn't even be able to see me. It's pitch black.
So if it makes you feel any better, I actually prefer working in the darkness. So obviously having power,
okay.
but like I'm sitting in my study and not a light is on or anything like that. So I'm sitting in the dark with you.
Okay, cool. Thanks. That makes me definitely feel a bit better.
Yeah, look, there's also that little fine line, that we have to tread, because I appreciate that not everybody has this, but at the same time, I sort of want to make it seem like I'm like rubbing it in people's faces, like I'll tell you this, every 15th of the month, I see that little deduction of a loan going down, and especially now, like we've and especially now, like we've said that, it's not even as bad now as it was before. It's like, was it really? Could I have like just held out for a little bit? We didn't know,
Yeah.
Loretta, we said exactly the same thing. We said, we went through all of this time and effort and expenses, and then load shedding went away, and we were like, oh my goodness, because it is. I mean, a lot of people had to. It's quite expensive, so obviously you have to apply for a loan or take a second mortgage on your house to be able to afford this. Otherwise, your alternative option is going to be just a torch and a little gas braai, if that was your alternative option. But quite a that's the backup, the camping equipment. But it's I mean, we weren't really informed that something was going to happen this week, and boom, Bob's your uncle. This morning I looked on the app, and I said, oh guys, we've got load shedding at 6. So quite the nuisance, I think. I see we've got somebody that's joined us as well. Hi, Bonile. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yeah,
how are you?
That's correct. I'm good. How are you?
Hi, Vanelli.
I'm
Hello.
good, thank you. We're talking about load shedding. We're just waiting to give everybody an opportunity to join. So just from our side, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit just now. So this is our first DUG event. So how the DUG events works is it's the Dynamics user groups, but it's all over the world. And I think there's 48 to 50 groups everywhere in the world. So if you go and look, you'll see different countries. A lot of DUG groups that have been started up specifically with regards to Dynamics. And then obviously there's also, they've got user groups for Microsoft and stuff like that as well. And some of these groups are quite big. Ours is not that big yet, but I'm absolutely positive that it'll pick up some pace. And just by chance, when we started looking at a Dynamics user group, we realized there isn't one in South Africa. So we then saw that there's one in Ghana and there's one in Kenya, but that's what there is in the whole of Africa. So the Ghana one and the Kenya one, they're quite bigger, but they've also been there for quite some time. The rest of the world, I have to say, they're very active on the user groups. So if you've joined the group, you can go and look at which other groups there are. It'll also show you when there's events. They've moved back to on-site events, which is actually sad because then we can't join it. But a lot of them do still promote some online events. And it's really about having a place to ask a question. So this is a community-led event, and it's really just about people jumping in and saying, listen, I learned something new. Can I show it to the guys? Or somebody's got a question about something in Dynamics, and you let me know, and you're saying, well, listen, we want to learn more about this, and I'll find a speaker for us. You know, I've got a great team that also assists me with this. It's not just me, but we then go and source a speaker, whether in South Africa, whether overseas. We then source a speaker to come and to tell us about things, because I think sometimes we're still very young when it comes to Dynamics. And sometimes we feel a little bit excluded, and we're also not aware of where we can find everything and how everything works, and who to ask, all the community groups, and sometimes I look at those community groups and it's a little bit over my head, and I'm like, I'm actually nervous to post the questionnaire. So that's exactly what it's about. It's about us creating a community around D365, so that we've got a place to ask questions. We've got a place to say, listen, we want to event with regards to this or event with regards to that. And as soon as what we've gotten to a point where we've got enough members, we'll definitely later in the year look at hosting an event at Microsoft, so that we can at least all get to meet each other and see each other, etc. So we'll possibly see, start off with an event in Johannesburg, and at a later point, maybe move the event and, have an additional one in Cape Town. Sorry, I didn't even realize my camera is not on. I just want to include as well that we've got some preschool developers with us in the office at the moment. So if you hear little ones going around, it's our preschool developers. We're starting them very young. So I think let's start off, because the first part of the presentation is more about from a DAG perspective. So around what I was telling you now. So I think let's start off. Let's start with that. Obviously, I'm still waiting for the other people to join, and I'm also waiting for the speaker. But I think then at least we can go through just a bit of information about what the DAG is. So why did we pick this session? First of all, a lot of these DAG meetups are joined from other countries as well. So what the guys do is they look at what events are taking place, and when they're online, they also join. So we thought from a South African perspective, let's start our first one by looking at a very South African word, lekker. This week we even learned that lekker is bom in Portuguese. We're busy training a Portuguese client. So we thought let's start off with putting a little bit of a South African spin on this as well. And I think this is something that most of us can relate to from a business point of view, from a project point of view, from an end user point of view, is what goes wrong when things aren't nice anymore. And that's exactly what our intent was. So I'm not going to keep my camera on, because as women, I'm going to continuously worry if my hair still looks fine. So just some, and yeah, we have to promote the DAG as well. So just some input with regards to the DAG meetups. As I said, it was founded in 1995. It's absolutely free for community users. It's definitely not a selling platform. We're not here to promote things. It's about creating connections. It's about networking. It's about, perhaps learning, who is doing what, and where do we get help, etc. So started in 1995, and at this point across the world, there's 47,000 community members within the user group. So I'm like, I can't believe South Africa's only starting now. Well, at least we're on 28 or 30 or something, but we're definitely going to get there. But yeah, we have to team up so that we can show the rest of the world what us as South Africans are about. So, as I said, I think there's 48 DAG groups. So there's some online forums that you can join. There's a lot of times there's in-person events. So this year they're doing DynamicsCon. DynamicsCon is one of them is running tonight. So that's why we don't have DAG representatives in our session. In July, August, they've got DynamicsCon, which is big, in Kenya and in Ghana. So let's hope that we also grow and we can host a DynamicsCon event and get some international speakers here, etc. I think that would absolutely be phenomenal. So follow the DAG groups and the DAG events with regards to what happens, because also from a training perspective, they do share a lot of information. They do also for some of the sessions that have been delivered by some of the other community groups, they do provide on-demand session recordings. So if there's something specific that you want to delve into, you could potentially look at if one of the other community groups has run a session, you can go and look at some of the videos there. I know this is oh, here's the DynamicsCon that I was talking about. So in North America, these are the ones that they're having this year. Obviously, we'll have to save some money if we wanted to go. And then these are the ones that are happening in Africa this year. So July, it's Ghana and Kenya. Obviously, if you want to go to a DynamicsCon, you have to pay for your own accommodation and you have to pay for your own traveling. But it's absolutely the place to network and get to know people and from all over the world with regards to Dynamics. I see Nastasha's, thank you, Nastasha. She's posted for us as well some info with regards to the DAGs. If you are a DAG member, so like us, we're DAG members, and you wanted to join or go to one of the DAG on-site meetings, then obviously as well you can get discount. And then what they do as well, so now for Ghana, for instance, is the hotel where they're hosting it has got preferential rates for people that are DAG members from our accommodation perspective. So yeah, quite interesting. So when we talk about Afrikaans, when we talk about the word Afrikaans, no, wait, I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to take a breath. Wait. The word lekker is Afrikaans word, but it's quite a versatile and commonly used word. It's like you predominantly would say it every second sentence when we speak. We use the word lekker, but it generally means, depending on what are you referring to, it means that it's tasty or it's pleasant or the food was nice. You could use the word nice as well. So it's very much about things that are nice and pleasant and so that's what the word lekker refers to. As I said, in Portuguese, it's bom. Bom. Let me just get the pronunciation right. But if we're talking about lekker, then yeah, we would refer to food, etc. But if we talk about things that are nice and things that are lekker and things that are pleasant, and we start talking about, hi Dylan, we start talking about D365 implementations, there's got a bit of a different meaning. So Dylan, we just went through what the DAG meetups mean. If there is something that you want to know about it afterwards, you're more than welcome just to reach out to us. So when we start talking about if your D365 implementation is no longer Lekker, now we're talking specifically about implementation. And I'm not referring to a F&O or BC or CE. I'm talking about in general. When we get to that point where our implementations are no longer Lekker, it definitely means that there's some issues from a project perspective. We're facing some challenges, issues, and that's what's causing this aggravation when it comes to our project. So can I ask you guys, what do you think? How do you know when you've reached this point? Anybody?
I'd say when there's no clear direction about like the
Yes.
requirements, and any concrete understanding of the requirements, because ultimately, if you don't understand the requirements, you don't understand the implementation.
Yes, absolutely. But I want to know, how do you, Tinus, how do you yourself, your body, how do you know when things aren't going well in a project?
Oh, when I start feeling burnout,
Yes, burnout, definitely one of them. Anybody else? For me, it's sleepless nights.
Yeah, it's definitely the stress, eh?
Sleepless nights. And now we're at a point where we're potentially in trouble at work from a project perspective. And then we go home, and then our husband, wife, or partner, we're potentially in trouble at home as well, because it's long working hours. It's just absolutely hectic. So that which Tinus was referring to is very, very crucial. And we're going to go through some of the key things that we tend to have issues with when it comes to our projects. And remember, I'm not always saying that it's from a project perspective only. Sometimes your D365 implementation has already been finalized. But now, even after it's finalized, now we're still, from a business perspective, ending up with sleepless nights, etc., because things aren't working, or things aren't going accordingly, or it's your first month in and you can't get your month in closed, etc. So it's not always just in a project. It's sometimes it spills over to after a project has been implemented, and our consultants have moved off site, and we then get stuck or battle or whatever. So definitely, and that's exactly what we want to focus on tonight, not just from a business perspective, but from a project perspective, from a business perspective, etc. So I thought, let's start off with just doing some introductions. We don't have a lot of people that's joined yet, but I think it would be ideal if we also just know who's who, where are we, and what is it that we do in our day-to-day. So if I'm guessing, I would assume Tinus is part of the project, so that was why his comment that he made earlier. But I think it would give us a great understanding as well if we just have an idea of who you are, perhaps where do you, in Joburg or Cape Town, or where in South Africa, or even outside of South Africa you are, and exactly what it is that you do. So how does this D365 meetup group, how does this relate to you? So what we usually do is we go alphabetically, because then we just make sure, alphabetically, then I'm first. Sorry, guys. So obviously my name is Dinah Coetzer. As everybody can see, I'll switch my camera on again. And you'll notice by now I've got the hairs, like I told you, if I keep my camera on, then the hair doesn't always stay good. But you can definitely see that I've got years of experience within business and within projects, and not only on D365, in other ERP solutions as well. So this is where my passion is. My passion is about helping end users, consultants on projects, businesses, helping them do this better, helping us lead normal lives where we don't have sleepless nights, terrible working hours, never seeing our children, etc. Because how do we put this project together? How do we move through this implementation, and how do we actually adopt it after the project has been finalized? That's really where my passion is. So that's from my side. Daniel, you next?
Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I'm not going to be sharing my camera. I am driving at the moment. So I'm Danielle Coetzer. Obviously, and my main focus in D365 is more on the supply chain side of the system. And I am in the Pretoria area.
Thanks, Daniel. I'm going alphabetically, but I actually, yeah, that was so wonderful. I got the presenters first. Sorry, guys. Now I'm like focusing on us first. Let's first focus on you first. Vanele, let's start with you. You said it's too late in the afternoon for me.
All right, no problem. My name is Banile Milo. I'm based in Johannesburg, so I'm focusing more on procurement, warehousing, and inventory management from Dynamics point of view. And currently, I work as a business application analyst for a mining company. So I'm an in-house, basically like consultant.
Very interesting. And I can just think at a mine, the whole supply chain process must be quite intricate from a procurement perspective, from an inventory perspective. So very interesting. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Mandele. I see Dylan is on hold. Lerato, sorry.
Hi everyone, my name is Lorato Mokotla, based in Boksburg, and I work for a mining and construction machinery company. Currently hold a position of a business system support technician, more of like your functional consultant, but in-house. And I focus mostly on warehousing and data management, and Power BI related. Yeah.
Rato,
Cool.
and you could have been a TV presenter with that voice. It seems like the warehousing and supply chain is overpowering us today, but yeah, it's a very interesting part of D365. And a key thing that you said as well is on the Power BI. I think Power BI is just starting to bloom, especially from a D365 perspective now. And we're definitely seeing more and more companies not just implementing D365, but doing it in conjunction so that they actually get the valuable insights from a Power BI and reporting perspective as well. But thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Can I just, before you move along, Lerato and Nastasha here, can you please say tonight on E?
Tonight, ETV.
You see, and only South Africans can relate.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Who's next? Kabelo?
Hi guys, I just joined.
You just joined, and we just immediately throw you under the microphone.
Yes, I just joined.
Awesome. We just want to know who you are, from where in South Africa are you, and what are you doing at the moment? So why is this Dynamics user group something that you want to be part of? So, what position are you filling? Why is this interesting for you? Where are your key focus areas when it comes to Dynamics?
Okay, I see a familiar name here. Tinas. I used to work with Tinas at Alexander Forbes.
Oh my goodness, look at that. We're already creating a community here.
It's a small world,
Yeah.
How's it, Kabelo?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all good.
I'm good. Yeah, I met you via Simpiwe Hadebe.
I remember.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm currently working for TASA's I'm a developer. I'm the only developer. So analyst.
Sleepless nights.
Yeah, but it's not hectic. They're not using Dynamics as it should be used.
To its full potential.
Yeah, and they are so stereotyped. They want to work like the way it is now.
Yeah.
But yeah. So the major project that I've done there, they were on 2016. Helped. So they had the tenant. They had some part of functionalities on D365 Online. So I helped with the migration to Dynamics Online. Yeah.
And did you have some migration nightmares there?
Yeah, crazy. Don't even have Kingsway soft. So most of the data migration was done manually, exporting, cleaning data, and then migrating it using the CSV files.
Oh,
yeah, it was crazy.
That sounded painful. Yeah.
Very.
Thank you so much for joining us, Kabelo. So, Tinus, you're last on the list of visitors. So I took a sneak peek just now on your email address because I also come from Altron, so it just shows you what a small world it is.
Oh, I met Nastasha through Altron as well.
Oh,
so, and she pointed me to the user group, this meetup that you guys are doing here.
Okay.
Yes. So initially, I reached out to Tinus because I wanted some advice on my CE exam, which I just want to add I passed. But
Oh, congrats!
yeah, thank you so much. So yeah, I reached out to Tinus and then shared the link with him as well. So yes, some Altron faces around here.
So Tinus, what do you do at Altron? It seems like Nastasha knows, but I don't.
I'm actually also one of the CE developers here at Altron. I've been a Dynamics CRM 365 CE developer for a long time. So yeah, I'm based in Johannesburg, and so development is my passion, but it's really about solving the problems, right? So I can do custom stuff, but I mean I like the Dynamics, because it does a lot of the boilerplate stuff for us, So then we can focus on the cool stuff in any implementation.
Absolutely, yeah.
Tinus was working on CE before it was cool.
so I mean, if it can show my age in this field, I started in CRM4.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of experience, wealth of experience. Yeah. Yeah, it's very beneficial, I have to tell you. I think it's very, very beneficial as well. And yeah, so you work with Yakham.
Yes.
Okay, great stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kabelo?
I'm saying I doubt in Simpiwe, Hadebe.
Oh, another familiar
did you
face.
dial him in? There we go.
How's it, Simpiwe? Sims.
Sims, you're under the microphone. No, he's shocked. He's like he first wants to see what's going on here. But thanks for that, Kabelo. Yes, we must try and get the community as large as possible because from a planning perspective, but as I said as well, we'll definitely, you guys must tell us what is it that you want to see in these sessions, who do you want to, and we'll go and we'll source speakers for these sessions, whether South African or international. And if there's areas that you want to learn more about, we'll source people to come and do presentations for us. And if it's from a certification perspective and you want to know what's going on, because you remember Microsoft likes to change their minds every now and then you also let us know, and we'll arrange somebody from a learning partner to come and have a session to take us through what the new roadmap looks like and what's the new focus from a Dynamics perspective. So these are all the great things that we want to bring to you, but we can't bring it if we don't have a community to deliver it to. So please, we haven't started planning our next one, but please, start sharing so that we can start building the community. So I think I stopped by, it's Jomari and Nastasha still, and then I don't know if some people wants to speak yet.
Then I see that Dylan is also off hold, Dinah.
Oh, Dylan. Okay. Dylan, where's Dylan? Oh, Danya. Dylan, yes. So we just want everybody to do a bit of an introduction, who you are, where you're from, and where do you fit into D365?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, sorry about that. Got another call. It's just the life, I guess. Yeah, my name is Dylan Roser. I work at Decision Inc. So, yeah, I'm not sure. See, everyone else is from a certain company. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not. But yeah, I work as a functional consultant for the past 3 years in the D365 F&O space, and then 3 years of prior ERP experience on in-house softwares.
Thanks, Dylan.
Very
So
cool.
just to clarify, we're here as community, not as the companies that we work for. So I used to work for the company that Tinus is working for. Tinus Kabela used to work with Tinus at other company and with some PW. So yeah, we don't stress. We're what happens in Doug stays in Doug. So from our point as well, me, Nastasha, Jomari, Roo, and Daniel, we work together. So we've got our own business, so we work together. Just don't feel threatened. As I said, it's not a competition, so don't stress. Dylan, what you can do for the next session is go and invite 10 people at Decision Inc. So in the next session, we've got more Decision Inc. people than what we've got other people. Would that work?
Definitely try and get them involved.
Perfect. So Simpiwe, do you want to do an introduction quickly?
Oh, hi everyone. Sorry, this caught me off guard.
Yeah, I saw it. You somehow went under the microphone immediately.
Yeah, apparently I'm actually in the shop, so I was like, Cabello, you bagara. But yeah, I'm a dev also. I'm a D365 dev. Currently, I'm more in between jobs, like contracting. That's what I'm doing with my own company. So yeah, that's where I am in this space.
Great stuff. But thank you for taking Cabello's call and for joining us. And we would really like you to join the Dynamics user group, the DUG group as well. So Cabello can share that with you as well. Please, Cabello, we'll help you to do some marketing for us. And then on the DUG, you will see when we have events, how often they are. And you now heard I said, we'll arrange different types of events so that we look from an end user perspective, from a project perspective, from a dev perspective. You guys must tell us what it is that you want to see, what it is that you want to hear, and we'll go out and source this all across the world so that we can come back and create a great knowledge base for all of us. That's absolutely what we want to do. So I think, Jomari, it was you, Roo, and Nastasha that quickly needed to do introductions as well, hey?
Not a problem. I'll go. So, hi everyone. I'm Jean-Marie, and as Dinah mentioned, we all work together. So we don't mainly focus on either ERP or CRM. We focus on both, from both perspectives. So consulting in ERP and CRM, but our main focus is training end users on how to use the system. So, sometimes it gives you a lot of headaches, but it's definitely worth it at the end of the day.
Because if you implement it and the users don't use it, then there's no value in it in the long run. So
Yeah.
we try to close the loop, definitely. From a training perspective, from a change management perspective, that's where our passion is. Roo, Nastasha, or Nastasha, you can go last. Maybe Roo can go.
I can go.
Everyone, evening.
Hi.
I'm Ruslinda. How are you? Hi, Jean Marie. I'm a consultant, a change and adoption coach at Infinite People. I'm still very new, and I hope I'll learn a lot from all of you guys. Thank you.
And just to add, Ruth's passion is data analytics. So she's got a
Yes.
quite a unique love for data analytics. Stasha?
Yeah, and programming.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Nastasha. I'm glad to hear we've got some East Stranders here because I'm from the East Strand. As Dinah mentioned, so we're all change and adoption coaches. We thrive on getting the end user to adopt the system because ultimately that is where you get the green light and business can proceed with the system, a winning system. So yeah, I'm also excited for this. I think it's going to be pretty cool. I know we're just a handful of people, but it's definitely going to grow larger. And Dina, just we should make a note that the people that was in our first DUG sessions should get the best swag by the time that we have a live event.
I like that idea. I had to now quickly navigate to the reaction and then at the same time try and unmute myself. So that's great. So we asked the speaker to join us for tonight's session. Unfortunately, we've been having difficulties getting the speaker into the call. And I don't know, I just want to quickly tell you about him, although we're still battling to get him into the call. I don't know if anybody on the call knows the name Warren Hero. Anybody heard about Warren Hero? So Warren is very big.
Unfortunately not.
Warren is very big in South Africa. He helps companies strategic planning, optimization, business transformation, etc. If at the moment he's with the revenue services, they're busy with a lot of new planning from a revenue services perspective. Obviously, not D365. Warren was also the CIO at Weber Wenzel. They implemented D365 about 2 years ago. He was the CTO at Microsoft in South Africa. So quite a big person to look up to. Definitely worth following in social media. And we'd hope to have him here tonight to speak to us about what are some of the things that we tend to do wrong so that we don't end up in the middle of the project, sleepless nights, and then realizing we should have done things differently. Unfortunately, as I said, we're still battling to get Warren into the call. So key things that I wanted to raise with Warren was what is the areas that are crucial for project success. So earlier, Tinus mentioned requirement gathering. So can I ask if everybody and I think it's key because we're all in different areas in D365. Can I ask if everybody can just in the chat, you're more than welcome if you want to type more than one. Just give me a one-liner as to what do you think is really a key area which is crucial to project success. And I think it's ideal because we're all in different areas, so that gives us quite a wide viewpoint from what are the areas that we think should be focused on in projects. And I'm stressing the fact of should be focused on in projects. Oh, Manele, that one is super, 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 super.
Scope.
And my team, you're more than welcome to jump in here because we sit at the end of the line just prior to go live usually. So we usually see the impact of some of these things. And I can see there's definitely a consistency with regards to what we're mentioning you know, what is crucial. If we think of, estimations, terrible one, that one. Estimations and durations. And if we think of on the projects that we're currently in, even whether we're within a, we're in-house or whether we're working as consultants, a lot of what we've just mentioned is usually lacking, and that causes a tremendous impact from a project perspective. So what I did is I've been following social media for like 3 months. And I've just been following based on, from a project perspective, what it is that we need to focus on. And as I said earlier, whether it's from you're busy implementing, or whether you've already implemented, the concept stays exactly the same, because you're going to continuously, from a optimization perspective, going to have these mini projects like Cabela was mentioning just now, where there's so much room for improvement. So you definitely, it's not like when after you've implemented it, it stops. You're going to continuously have these improvement little projects that are running, but the concept of what it is that we need to focus on within our implementations stays exactly the same. Loratu, I think I like yours the most.
Yes, I wish I could react twice.
So I've just noted the 6 main ones. Obviously, somebody also mentioned migration. We spoke about data migrations, which is absolutely a very key one. From a development perspective, I think integrations is also a very key one. But that ties back to, if we don't have proper requirement gathering, by the time we get to integrations, we realize the integrations aren't working or lacking, or there's something wrong. So the main is definitely, from a requirements gathering perspective, is we have to make 100% sure of what it is that what it is that the client requires prior to us determining what it is that we're going to deliver to the client. So that's a key one for me. So if we just look at some of the key areas that I've noted down. Somebody mentioned as well, top management support. We also spoke about scope. Scope was one of the words that we used. So lack of clear direction is always a very key one. So if the scope isn't properly defined, if we don't have a properly documented blueprint document saying, according to the requirements, this is what we've identified, this is what the client wants, so that we can get this properly signed off, then potentially we're going to end up with misaligned priorities, because that's our key to determine what it is that we're actually implementing, what the client requires, and how the success of this project is going to be identified. I have to first take a big breath before I say inadequate communication. I think sometimes, you guys can tell me if you agree with me or not, but I think sometimes there's such a big focus, sometimes not, but there's such a big focus on communication from a client perspective to everybody else, that we tend to forget the communication from an internal project team. So simply like dialing you into this call. If I have to tell you how many calls I get dialed into because somebody only afterwards realized I wasn't in the Teams meeting, or there's something specific that they have to discuss, and then they suddenly realize, oh, but the person that has to do it isn't even here. So inadequate communication, that working together is really a key thing as well from a project perspective. Missed deadlines, and all of this that we've noted now in the chat definitely adds to our missed deadlines. So if we don't have a clear indication of where we're going, and the client hasn't properly signed off what it is that they want, and we haven't told the client this is exactly what we're going to give you, then we end up with that lovely scope word, scope creep, which definitely affects deadlines, which is the start of budget overruns. And this is where the team starts getting sleepless nights, starts working tremendously long hours. I see in some of the project teams that we work with, because we work across implementation partners, I see in some of the teams that we work in where today somebody's at work, tomorrow they're sick, and then the next person is sick, and then the next person is sick. And this all adds up to morale. And I think that low team morale and the pressures of this project affects us as well, and we end up with continuously being sick or not knowing how to juggle the work and the home life, and that adds to our actual well-being. Do you guys feel that? Or
more times than I can count.
Yeah. I don't think there's anybody that can say that they don't relate to that. We spoke about the scope creep. And from a risk perspective as well, I think if we don't have proper requirement gathering and a proper scope set out, we get to a point where we don't know what the risks are that we're trying to mitigate, especially like something with integrations that aren't working anymore. So and I'm not saying it's a PM that's poor project management. It's the whole package that really gets affected by this. This one absolutely is, and we've also mentioned this. Solid business analysis. Managing expectations. We spoke about agreeing the scope. We spoke about requirement gathering. This is the starting point of any project. If we don't have properly defined requirements and what the objective is, it affects everything tremendously. So once again, you can see there's a consistency between everything. So if we look at misaligned expectations, so just now we spoke about budget overruns and we spoke about missed timelines on our project, which is in relation to scope creep sometimes. If we talk about resource burnout, a lot of the times it's with regards to insufficient resource allocation. So now the scope has maybe grown, or from a planning perspective, somebody mentioned earlier, I think it was Tina's, estimations. So part of the estimations is the time, the amount of resources that we're going to require, etc. So if those, from a project perspective, if those estimations aren't dealt with successfully or effectively, we end up with insufficient resources. If we have insufficient resources, the burden is on the resources that are part of the project. That burden definitely causes that project to not be Lekker anymore. Tinas?
Yeah, I've seen that quite a lot. You know, a common thing that happens is, you know, a requirement comes in, and then halfway through, you know, doing the build of that requirement, they realize that they need to do something in Power Automate, but the person that's assigned to this task isn't necessarily well versed in Power Automate, and then they struggle for days trying to do something that somebody that has the skill could do in hours. And that's like I feel for the people like that, because that's a lot of pressure to like learn something new and deliver at the same time, right there.
Absolutely. And once again, now that person is taking longer, perhaps the end result is not what the intent was actually. So it might not be as effective as what, from a planning perspective, it was supposed to be. It adds on to our missed timelines. It adds on to our budget. So to not miss the timelines, now we double the effort for everybody else in the team, because we have to try and catch up the time that was lost, so that we can still make this project in the right timelines that was initially proposed. For system design as well. So if the requirement gathering isn't effective, we end up with scope that is definitely not as effective as it should have been. So in other words, then we end up with functional design docs that, and sometimes I think that's a bit difficult, because you must remember the person that we're building this for, doesn't really understand a functional design doc. So what we put into that functional design doc, they're looking through it and, yeah, on paper things look smooth, but they don't actually know. And then when we start going into UATs and into training, we get it tremendously in training. Then they realize, but okay, this isn't actually what they asked. And then everybody says, oh, but it was signed off. But it's because they don't actually understand that document. I think, you know, if we spend a little bit more time there, Tinus.
Yeah, you know, in functional design doc, that's a term I haven't heard for a long time, because with the adoption of stuff like Agile, people fool themselves into thinking that the documentation is not required, right?
And find that as well, yeah.
Agile doesn't say no documentation. Agile says we prize people conversations over lengthy documentation, but it doesn't say no documentation. So, but the thing is, in my experience, it's you know, that was what ended up happening, right? They don't document things properly, and so a lot of it is assumptions, and you know, it basically contributes to every single point that you've got here, because you know, if we don't start from the correct foundation, everything else kind of crumbles.
Starts affecting everything, and that's where our project gets to a point where it's not Lekker anymore, especially for us having to keep all of this together. Ratu, you also agreed with what we were saying. Do you find that as well, that the lack of, you know, trying to push Agile, the lack of documentation really ends up with scope creep, with poor system designs, and then you guys as developers have to try and make the best of it?
Yeah, true. All of this sort of like correlates with each other. The moment one aspect, like you noted there, is not done properly, it affects the rest of the thing, the rest of the project. Those are the challenges. But what I've picked up a lot is, if from the beginning up until, I'd say midway, just before the development phase, if the first part of the project is not done properly, it's going to be problems all the way. I won't lie.
Yeah, the foundation. If the foundation isn't there, then it makes it very difficult when you guys have to start building the solution. And for us, when we get to from a training perspective, so we do super user training, we do end user training, then you've got the people that are actually going to be working with the system, and then they're saying, but this won't fit in our business. This isn't how our process works. No, we can't do it like this. So whether from a audit perspective, whether from a compliance perspective, then only we get to a point where the guys that are really going to be using it is saying, no matter what you do, you can bend it any way you want to. This isn't going to work in our business. Then it has to filter up all the way to the top. So it's like a domino effect. It's got quite a domino effect. The testing as well. What we find in some of the projects that we're on, and yeah, as I said, that's our opinion. But some of the projects that we're on, I don't always understand why they don't do end-to-end testing. Why sometimes they test in, let's test this part of the system, and then we're going to test that part of the system. Then when we get to training and we do end-to-end, because we train according to the business process, then we find that, but these two parts don't actually speak to each other. So whether it's how we set up from a testing perspective, whether it is what we focus on in testing, whether it is the actual users that are testing, we find it tremendously when we get to training where people are saying, but we went through UAT with this. Okay, but the preceding process and the process after this, now it doesn't fit seamlessly. So from a business perspective, it doesn't make sense. And I'm so glad to see that what we're speaking here is true words, because everybody's like, yeah. So did I do this one? Did I have two of this one? Did I click the button? Did I? Yeah. So business processes. So we tend to be in so many projects where the as is isn't documented. And maybe it's part of the agile, because now we're saying, okay, well, we can implement in 2 months. But how do you guys that do the development without knowing how they used to do it and how their process is now going to fit into D365 and how they're going to be doing it in future? Caballo, it was, I can't remember now. Lerato or Caballo, I can't remember who said, or maybe Vanille, about migrating, and now people still tend to want to do things the way that they used to do it before. So there was no real optimization. It's just, sometimes it's just, moving from one ERP to another ERP, if we're talking about ERP, yeah. But we're not really taking the time and effort, business, and part of the project. Business isn't really taking the time to say, this is how we do things. Let's look at where can we optimize? Where are there bottlenecks? Okay, let's look at how do we want to do things? Okay, now let's look at our gap analysis and see how we can fit this to D365. So sometimes a year after the fact, then companies come with, now they want to start optimizing, now they want to start changing things. And if your base of how you did things in D365 is set, then it actually adds so much complexity. If now after the fact you want to go and apply changes, if you actually had just identified them right from the beginning, even if it wasn't in scope, but at least you'd already identified it so that you know, okay, for this is possibly in 6 months' time, but we have to take this component into account as well. So optimization to me is a big thing. It's companies aren't optimizing, and we don't have clearly defined business processes. I look at business processes and then it's like level 1, and I'm thinking, okay, but how do you guys build a new system based on a business process that's a one-pager? Because how do you define how it actually gets done out of that one-pager? Then obviously we've got the lovely over-customization. And that's also from a business perspective. Businesses must realize if they're going into the cloud, they're moving over onto D365, let's reinvent how we're doing things. But a lot of the times they want to, this is how we did it, and I don't care what you do, I want it the same as what we used to do it. So then we end up with over customizations, which obviously has its own complexities from an update perspective, etc., further down the line. If we don't have our business processes, then we also don't know from a gap perspective where are areas that D365 can't cover potentially out of the box, which means we actually need to customize in that specific area, because otherwise this business won't be able to function. And again, I'm saying, how do we do this without business processes? In the training as well, we find a lot where people are saying, but this is what we do. We do this. This is how we do it. This is what we do. But that wasn't taken into account with the build. And I'm not saying it's from a development perspective. I'm saying, how do you guys build this without a clear map? Inconsistent data as well. I think it's very difficult for the guys developing when we start testing and it's Google that was put in there. And then when we get to go live and we actually start putting the real data into the system, then things don't make sense anymore. And again, this adds up again to my project timelines, to my resource shortages, to my potential budget overrun, which to me, every project that I've been on has had a budget overrun and a moved out milestone timelines. I haven't had one where everything fits together. Tinus?
So I want to just mention that point under customization. The amount of times that I've heard people say that they just want a vanilla D365. That to me is a red flag, because it's never vanilla. But it also sometimes says that they don't know enough about their own needs, their own requirements. Absolutely. And it's happened a few times where through quote unquote interrogation, we find out that the clients are trying to use some portion of Dynamics as a way to learn how to do something quote unquote industry standard. But they don't they don't even understand how they do it themselves. But they just want to, like for example, they wanted to use marketing in Dynamics as a way to find out how other people do marketing. But the marketing portion of Dynamics is just a tool, right? It's a glorified email distribution list. You know, like if I oversimplify by a large means, right?
Yeah.
But like, you know, they don't talk about how they set up their own campaigns first and work with it and stuff like that. So to me, that under customization is a big point because it's happened so much. It's a they say they want vanilla because it's a shortcut to just get started instead of like, this is what we want.
And Tinus, I'm so sorry, I have to quickly can CE, yeah? So I'm more on the financial side. CE to me is difficult, not from a application perspective, but CE to me is like taking a bag of Legos and throwing it on the floor and saying, okay, let's see what we can build out of this. And unfortunately, exactly what you were saying now, that's how customers end up on CE, whether it's, and marketing is phenomenal. I have to just add that in. But now they don't know how are we currently doing it. So that as is process, how are we currently doing it? Okay, let's see how we can do it with the application. So now they don't have the how do we currently do it, or they haven't done it like you're saying they now want to learn a industry standard. And now you're putting this box of Legos in front of them and you're saying, okay, let's see what we can accomplish here. And then they don't actually get the return on the time and effort they put into implementing CE marketing, for instance, where I've always have a big question that I want to ask. If I talk about F&O, BC, or CE, the cost for implementing this is enormous in general. When people talk about what it costs them, it's always, it's a lot of money. Right. You don't hear about a cheap CE or F&O implementation. It's always a lot of money. So what I don't always understand is why take a risk on an enormous amount of money, whereas with a little bit more money, documenting your processes, making sure you've defined what your goals and objectives are, clarifying what it is that's actually going to be implemented, that small portion of money for business analysis, change management, stuff like that. If you put that next to the cost of the actual implementation, it's small compared to that. But people tend to say, no, we're not going to spend money on this. We're just going to go with that. And then they end up spending much more on project overruns, things that aren't working, a lot of other things, whether they have to then do additional customizations. So I don't always understand how people, the cost of the implementation, how the cost of doing proper business analysis, change management, etc., how they don't tie those two together. But
I have a theory on that, if you'll indulge me.
Yeah.
Adding to your analogy of the box of Legos, which I'm totally going to use next time around.
You agree with me?
Because no, you're absolutely right. I used to say that a Dynamics, you know, once you spin up a Dynamics environment, it's like having a blank Excel file. You can do anything with that, but no two Excel files are the same. You can use the templates and stuff like that, but again, I've used the templates but never stuck with the plain template. I've always had to change it up. So with Dynamics, and especially with CE, there's this there's an element of people believe it's already a complete product, and you know they think that you know, you could just drop it in and start using. Whereas it has the boilerplates, you know, of a product, but it's not the full product. It's not tailor-made to you. It's really lowest common denominator stuff, and nobody is lowest common denominator.
Yeah, absolutely. No, definitely. To me, the F&O, because it's a bit more structured, because you've You've got debits and credits there. So you're a little bit more structured with regards to what you spin up in F&O, but CE, yeah. And then people tend to try and use components of CE for what it wasn't actually intended for, like especially on case management and stuff like that. The strange project that we've been on and what people tend to use those applications are sometimes quite interesting for us, but definitely, Dennis, good point there. So if I have to put all of this together, it's like three or four underlying things, but they all add up together. So change management is like 3/4 of the time a swear word to everybody. And as I said earlier, I don't understand why businesses pay all of this money to do implementation, but they don't want to manage the change from a business perspective, which from a cost point of view is a drop in the bucket with regards to what it costs you to implement something. Because, I mean, if we've upgraded to an online application, we spoke about that earlier. If we're going from an ERP application that was that we've had for 15 years and we've customized it to death, and we're now going over onto D365. It's such a major risk for any company to lay out tremendous amount of cost, but not look at the people impact. So everybody always is like, no, the change management's the fluffy part of things. But it's actually not, because without the change management part of it, how do you actually get a return on your investment? How do you actually ensure that the people adopt what you wonderful guys have actually built? Because if there's no adoption, then the project is actually a fail. The project isn't a success when the consultants finish and they move over to the next project. The project is actually a success when the end users adopt it and they can use it successfully. So from a sales perspective, yeah, definitely it's a win once the project is finalized and the consultants move over to their next project, or the in-house guys, they move over to the next one. But that's not the win. The win is when people can use it and they adopt it. That's when you leave a legacy behind. When people talk about, oh, you know what, this, and I'm not going to use companies, ABC Consulting implemented this for us. It's working fantastically. We've had our first month in. Our stock is balancing. Our costing looks great. Our Power BI reports looks great. That's actually where the sale comes from. Is the legacy you leave behind when you leave. And that legacy is only supported by change management and proper training. Because what you build means nothing if the users that's going to be using it cannot use it. Did you put up your hand? Would you like to say something?
Yes.
We sit next to each other, so.
So I can't tell you guys how many times in training sessions or like even super user sessions where that's prior to either a CRP or UAT, and the users actually say, oh no, I was like invited to the session, I'm not really sure why I'm here, or I'm not going to do this, why should I know how to do this? And so a good one is what I wanted to add on with coming over from an old system to a new one, which was overdeveloped, and now you're going into ERP or D365, is that I actually had a trainee that once asked me, yeah, but go onto, I'm going to say the word, go onto Sage and check how many clicks I had on Sage to process a purchase order invoice, and then check how many clicks there is in D365. And we literally had to go test that to convince the users to actually utilize the system. It was insane.
But I think also if we look at communication, so yeah, definitely, and you guys are getting the full spiel now. You understand the end part of what it is that you build as well. Is there's poor communication. So these guys don't know what's coming. They don't know how it's going to impact them. They don't know what the benefits are. So when you have to do UATs with people. If in their mind they are not already convinced this is going to be better for us, what impact does it have on your UATs? And actually, that's where you want to win. You want to win on your UATs. So if change management isn't done and we haven't convinced them and they don't know what the benefits are and they don't know where the shortfalls are, and it's not properly communicated and it's not you that's doing the communication. This is now from a business perspective. But if that's not managed, it's got a tremendous effect for the project. Unclear benefits, as I said now, poor communication. It causes project delays because now when we go into UAT, that's where the users are now suddenly realizing, oh, but this isn't what we wanted. This isn't going to work. So it all boils back right to the beginning when we were doing the scope. So part of the scope was getting buy-in, not just from the people that are signing the check, but buy-in from the people that's actually going to be using the system. And this boils all the way down to inconsistent adoption. And as I said, yes, you've got your money in your pocket because we've done the project. We've got our money in in our pocket because we've done the training. But if those guys don't adopt it and use it, the legacy that we actually leave behind is going to be very poor. We need those people to say, great project, great, it's working, everything is working, because that is where the sale actually sits. That's where the message comes back. That's where the message gets spread, where other people that potentially are looking at implementing D365 are now saying, oh, there's successful projects. Oh, things are working. Oh, this changed for the better for us from a project perspective. But if you go on LinkedIn, you can go and search how many people are talking about successful projects. Go and search how many people are talking about projects and the reason why projects are failing. So for us as a community, for us from a job perspective, from us from a continuity point of view, staying in the D365 space, how do we ensure continuity for business? Whether you've got your own business, whether you're working at a company, how do we ensure that we are going to have a job at a company? How do we ensure that if we've got our own business, that there's a continuous influx of new work? It's by getting to that point where the idea around D365 projects that are not adding value, there isn't a return on investment, there isn't adoption. We don't have the people talking while they're standing in the spa with the lady next door talking about they've just gone through an implementation and this was absolutely great and it works and there's benefits for it without focusing on that adoption. We don't ensure continuity for us from a business perspective, from an income perspective, from having a job at a possibly implementation partner tomorrow. The adoption is so key. And everybody is quiet. You see, I told you the change management's the fluffy part. So we've got two more. So project delays. And this now rolls all the way up. Again, objectives, requirements. We spoke about the project management, about resourcing, about estimations. We spoke about scope creep. We spoke about technical challenges. Now in the middle of the project, we realize, and especially on the CE side where they're really punting Power Apps now, we realize we need a Power Apps resource. It's not like just plucking them off a tree. Now we're potentially looking at technical challenges, which is definitely going to cause project delays. We spoke about inadequate testing, the way that we're doing our testing. And guys, quickly tell me, does anybody do negative testing? Because I just see people doing positive testing. So we're testing.
I try with the units of work that I deliver and so on, but negative testing, that's part of like formal testing, or it's seen as like the part of the formal testing, and that's also one of the things that companies don't invest in that much. I've worked at like maybe 2 companies where they've had a formal testing department.
We just by chance had somebody today in a training session which an end user in training who decided, okay, I've tested what it must do and how it works. I want to test what it mustn't do. So it was quite interesting for us. We seldom get that, but I think not perhaps the whole formal testing, but I think it's important from a project perspective to identify key areas that could potentially pose a risk from a business point of view, is to perhaps identify as well, are there areas that we cannot not do negative testing on? Because it's going to be crucial to the success of this project. Resource constraints, I have to tell you, if somebody asks me one more time if I would be interested to do development, and I'm like, no, I speak too much, I cannot be a developer. I think in the market there's quite a resource shortage when it comes to D365. We spoke about the change management, and I see there's somebody that joined us now. We've had quite a nice discussion. But yes, the Doug, they will be sharing the recording, and they will be sharing the presentation as well. And you'll see in the presentation I've explained a lot of this and what we must do to accommodate or to mitigate some of this, but I'm not presenting it. So there's quite a few for every one of these. There's a slide that I've hidden, so to give you some more context with regards to some of these things. There's no way that we can not have delays, but delays need clear reasons and corrective actions. Then delays will instill confidence, and the fact that there's potentially an increase in the cost will be absorbed by business or whoever's having this implemented much easier. So we're not saying you cannot have delays. We're saying if there's a proper reason behind the delays and corrective action, business won't have a problem with paying for project dates that have to move out or additional resources, etc. So it's about how do we manage the delays that actually boils down to getting through delays, which, as we said, is not like you cannot not have delays on a project. We're on our last one. And yet again, I'm talking about user adoption. And guys, I'm not doing a sales pitch here. Lack of training. We sometimes when there's a lack of adoption, so there's no return on investment, Microsoft will speak to us to go and retrain users. But businesses tend to, and in the project itself, when we start compiling our project and the requirements for the project and the estimates from a who needs to be involved, timelines, cost, all of that. User adoption is so closely linked to ensure proper training. If we have to go onto the web and we have to go and search, how do I do this in D365? I have to sift through people's posts on LinkedIn, and I have to sift through YouTube videos, because remember, the Microsoft content is very high level. It's very vanilla. That was the milkshake word we used just now. It's very vanilla. So for a user to try and figure out how to do something, if they haven't gone through training, has got a tremendous effect. If I battle to find answers sometimes, it's got a dramatic effect. Yes, Microsoft's key focus is from a technical perspective and from a certification perspective, etc. But the actual how do we do something, there's very little content with regards to that. So, and because every implementation is not the same, we've got our two Excel spreadsheets, but how we set up the database and the content that we put in and the formulas that we put in, yes, the base is the same, but how we do it is completely different. So for an end user, now getting a new system. And remember, business is just saying, oh, we're implementing this, and oh no, man, my people have been creating purchase orders for ages. The first time they open up that screen, they're completely lost. So, and again, training is a drop in the bucket when we look at what the implementation costs. So the training also has a positive impact on how people adopt this change in their life. It adds tremendously to the user experience. So even when we're busy with UATs, so we're currently in some of our projects, we do training prior to we train the super users prior to UAT. It's got a tremendous effect on how the UAT turns out. User adoption, again, communication. So there's communication within the project sponsors and the project team, etc., etc., etc. But the people that are actually going to be working in the system, there's very little communication, which comes from change management, that gets passed through to them. So they don't know what's coming. They don't know how it's going to have an impact in their life. I call them with me's. So with me's is what's in it for me. So how do I start doing something if you're not going to tell me you can now have a Power BI dashboard that shows you this and this and this. You don't need to sit for hours and compile with exported data to get to an end result. So if I can't sell it by means of what the system can do, how do people then adopt this? Support as well. I know some of the implementation partners, they do support after go live. But I just quickly have to tell you guys, we love you to pieces because without you, we wouldn't have a job. But just as I can't be a developer because I speak too much, not every developer can speak to an end user. It's like, no, not that button, not that button. No, go right. No. You're doing it completely wrong. No. And we can't do that with the end user because I'm telling you, when they're in training, when we're sharing screens and we say, okay, expand the fast tab, or we say, click on the left navigation pane. People are immediately, whoop, they're going to the right. And we're like, no, not that left, my left, come to the other side. So we've got a huge amount of respect for what you do. And you're very key to this process. But I'm sorry, guys, I just have to tell you, not everybody can train an end user. Not everybody has got the patience to train end users, first of all. Second of all, because you're a developer, you see it in click there, go there. Whereas people that deal with end users see it as in, okay, how's the screen going to affect them? So we look at the whole user experience. How's the screen going to affect them? What do we need to make them attend? Is there a word like attend in English? What do we need for them to focus on the screen? Okay, how do we need to explain this screen? Okay, then we only start with what are the steps that you have to take to perform the action. So, not canning you guys. It's just we've definitely all got our own spaces. So, from a support perspective, it makes it very difficult if you've got people that are well versed in D365. And I'm sure everybody can raise their hand and say they've lost their patience with the end user. And please don't think that I, under no circumstances, I do sometimes in training mute myself, swear, and then unmute myself and say, okay, let's try this again. So it's not like I've always got patience, but I really try. So support as well. Who helps these people when they get stuck? And from a support perspective as well, part of that support after go live needs to be, where are we battling? Okay, let's rerun training. Because every time we've got a consistency in where people battle and we rerun them through some refresher training, it decreases your support tomorrow. And again, we're talking about misaligned business processes. So to wrap this up, and this I couldn't, there's not a lot about companies in South Africa. So Metcash apparently is quite a big Australian wholesale distributor. when they implemented F&O, their project timelines moved out with 24 months. Their estimates, their estimation with regards to what this is going to cost ended up $200 million more than what they had initially anticipated. And that which we discussed now, so for other companies it might not be this extensive, but we're sitting with this overruns and cost overruns in nearly every project. That which we went through now, if we can get that to a better point, to a better stage, to a better managing documentation, business processes, clearly aligned objectives, ensuring from a UAT perspective, perhaps pushing out users through training before they do UAT, because then our UATs are better. If we can get
management,
whatever, if we can try just to bring a little bit of that in and focus on some of those things, it's going to have a humongous effect on our projects. Greater success rates within budget, within timelines. And obviously, when something is in a timeline, it means you're not stretched thin because you're already put onto the next project, because that also happens. This project runs over, and now you're already put onto the next project. And because we're already battling with resourcing, now you have to double up your time. It's like having a half-day job. You either work the first 12 hours of the day or you work the last 12 hours of the day. And that happens, unfortunately. So I just want to end off. So who are we? Are we going to be part of the solution or part of the statistics, like with Medcash? Does anybody have any questions? No, not you.
Sorry, no, I don't have a question. But I read a really interesting article. Microsoft is now laying off almost 6,000 employees. And I think if we are part of the solution and we ensure that our projects are successfully implemented and adopted, potentially that's not something that would happen at a later stage.
Because it ensures continuity within the product, and that's what we want.
Our legacy.
So when you want to put on your camera and then you unmute yourself, it's like, oh, terrible. So yes, today we didn't focus on, from a development perspective, we didn't focus on the more technical side. And as I said, we can definitely, if there's, I mean, I've got wink, wink, I've got somebody that can take you through landed cost, because I understand that's quite new. And we've got landed cost. So if somebody's interested, when you tell us, then we arrange a meetup for landed cost. Daniel is just like completely quiet down there. But this is exactly what we're going to try and attend. Is we want to look at the whole D365 ecosystem. We don't just want to focus on the technical. Some of the meetup groups are very technical. We don't just want to focus on the technical side of it. We want to understand what it is that you do. We want you to understand what it is that we do. We want to understand the impact of what both of us does on the actual end result. And as we said, the legacy, the let's grow Dynamics, and I don't get commission from Microsoft. Let's grow Dynamics so that we can ensure a future for ourselves, for our children, from a work perspective, because I think there's a lot of opportunity here, but there's a lot of underlying things that we need to actually focus on to ensure this further down the line. Anybody, any questions? Very important thing, Tinas. And that's why I said, if you guys want to see how landed cost works.
Daniel would probably pull out her hair, but we can definitely schedule something.
No, she likes it now. But even if we start there, if Cabello, you want to implement something new and you're not sure how how it works, if you want us to, from a training perspective, set up a session and take you through something specific in D365 so that you also learn a bit more about it and whether it would be something of value for the business that you're in, or if perhaps you're on a new project, Tinus, where there's something key and you not quite comfortable or unsure about exactly, because we know that happens as well. It's like just pull Tinus by the ear and put him in this project and you can figure it out. So we might not have all the experience, but we've been on quite a few F&O projects and we've been on quite a few CE projects. So maybe it's something that we can then say, okay, guys, let's have our next session and go through something within supply chain or something that we've learned with one of our projects, and it could add value on your side. Would that help? Or what else is there? Yeah, as I said, I can arrange for us for one of our meetups with a learning partner if you wanted to talk about certifications and what's happening from a roadmap perspective. So you must definitely tell me, this is not about what we want to tell you. We've done that now. This is about what do you want to hear, and we'll go out and we'll source, whether it's other speakers, whether it's something that we can assist with going through something, whether it's something that new that you learned in your day-to-day, and you're like, guys, can we have a session about this? I want to show the team about this. So yeah, we're not businesses. We are all in this DUG company, and we're absolutely here to learn from each other.
Cool. Well, I look forward to giving some feedback and ideas and stuff like that. I don't have anything off the top of my head right now, but I'm sure in one of the various places, like maybe the website or so, we can give some ideas and stuff like that.
So on the DUG, you can communicate on the DUG on the meetup group, not in the event.
On the meetup group,
so we can chat on the meetup group as well. So then everybody will be informed. So on the meetup group, if you just go and check on the meetup group, but you know where to find us in any event if somebody's got a question.
Yes, let's not create a WhatsApp group.
Yeah. No.
Hashtag 5 million of them.
I'm going to archive it together with my in-law WhatsApp group.
Cool, guys. Thank you so much for your time. As we mentioned, please go and follow the Dynamics user group on LinkedIn. Have a look at their website. Yeah, reach out to us. Let's connect on LinkedIn. All of us, we can always connect through LinkedIn if there's something we don't want to raise or speak about in the next DUG session. I'll see if I can create a survey for us so that if you do want to register to be a speaker in one of our sessions, then that would also be amazing. Listen, we can talk a lot, but we can't talk a lot about everything. So if you do want to raise your hand and say, listen, I've got something cool that I want to share with the team and I want to have a session with you guys, let's schedule that. Have a lovely afternoon, well, evening, and hopefully load shedding is past now, so we can all go lie on the couch and watch something, or if you're a consultant, you're probably going to sit and work. Good luck.
Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.